I'm into visuals. Lady Justice is not only blindfolded, you're saying she's in a bit of a straitjacket, I would assume. And this little poor defendant, the scales are tipped, not in his favor.
Yeah, right.
So for most of us who are law-abiding citizens, I'm sure this doesn't come up in our everyday conversation. But for those of you who have committed a crime, I'm sure you'd like to be part of a nation of laws and justice. And you're saying that the Constitution is under trespass here. So some of our freedoms are being eroded in this form or fashion?
Yeah, I mean, the prosecutor shouldn't be doing the sentencing.
Right.
The legislature and the governor through the Sentencing Commission and giving the authority to the prosecutor to do mandatory should not be doing the sentencing. So that's an erosion of the three separate powers, which we are the judiciary, and we're not supposed, we can't be involved in politics. You mentioned the book. I can write a book, I can speak, I can teach. That's all I can do. I can't have a business. I can't be involved in any political action. If I was, I'd be removed from office. We can't be political. We have to be doing what is right. And so sentencing seems to me to be something that should be done by someone who's going to do it right, not what's popular. Exactly. The legislators who run every 2 years, the district attorney who runs every 4 years, they're responsive to the voters. I'm no longer responsive to the voters. I mean,
see.
Like it or not, I'm not. You know how long my term is? 10 years.
Yes.
I mean, you know, compared to a 2-year term or a 4-year term.
Now that's
but
a state.
That's all by design. There's a reason for that, and we have this thing called retention. Plus, when I run, I can run as a Democrat and a Republican. So in a county where it's all Democrats or it's all Republicans, the opposite party can actually get elected by being on both, if he circulates enough petitions and gets enough signatures, being on both sides and being presented as a Republican, as a Democrat. So we're trying to get the politics out of it, and that's for the reason that they want us to do things right. And well, I mean, if I ran every 2 years or 4 years, and a powerful person like you, I'm assuming, comes before me, or a friend comes before me, well, if a friend does, I get out of the case, but a powerful person who can control votes, who can make contributions. If I'm a politician, I need votes. I need contributions. If I'm a judge, I should not have votes. I should not be praying for them or crying for them or pleading for them. And I should not have money coming in, and every 10 years when I run for retention, it's just yes or no. And we may have the F. Lee Bailey or whoever the best lawyer is who wants to replace me, and he or she can't until when I say the voters of Berks County retain Jeff Sprecher, yes or no. And if there's more no's than yes, then there's an opening, and F. Lee Bailey and somebody else can run. But other than that, I'm in automatically for another 10 years. So it's by design that, and yet this has been taken away from us. The sentencing discretion has been taken away from us. It's easy. I mean, it's easy now to just simply follow what it does. We don't have to do too much thinking. Believe it or not, I mean, murder cases are mandatory also. And maybe a lot of people don't think that there's a problem with that, but that's fine. But all I can tell you is that sentencing where I don't have any discretion will take me 15 minutes to sentence, if that. Wow. There's no point. I don't have any discretion.
Well, it sounds to me that the system, although it had good intentions, is somewhat broken.
Well, I think the results speak for themselves. I think we have gone well, I'll give you another statistic. I can sentence 2 places. I can sentence to the local prison, and I can sentence to the state system. State system started in the early 1800s. There were 11 prisons throughout Pennsylvania that were built. Some of them closed, but 11 were built and located throughout Pennsylvania as of 1980. So and another statistic, and I'll tell you what that means in a minute. From 1940 to 1980, we had 7,000 inmates in the state system for a flat line of 1940 to 1980. 1982, we created the Sentencing Commission. From 1984, appropriately enough, we have had the greatest prison construction epidemic in our Commonwealth. We built 16 prisons, more than in the entire history of our state in 14 years. And our prison population, instead of being 6,000 to 7,000, went from 1980 to 52,000 today. And we're building 3 new prisons. And we're going to probably have 61,000 people in next year.
So we as taxpayers, I would
Yes.
feel, pay for these prisons.
Absolutely.
We pay for the upkeep and the maintenance and all of the day-to-day living of prisoners.
Right.
Even though they may be there on mandatory sentences, which may be somewhat exaggerated because some are less victimless crimes or
Well,
such.
If you're selling drugs, what's the difference if you're within 1,000 feet of a school? Now, if you're selling drugs to somebody who's a school kid,
Right.
don't you think that'll come up in the
Yes, that would come
sentencing?
up.
That the
So,
judge will be
yeah.
told that.
Yeah.
But just to say, well, if it's 1,000 feet, it might as well be a mile. Why not make it 10 miles from a school? Well, everybody in the country, then everybody's treated the same. And we let 18,000
Yes.
people out of the state prison system every year.
Wow.
They come back into society.
come right back
and they
in.
come back with all kinds of burdens because they can't get jobs.
Right.
Nobody will hire them
No.
because they're a convicted felon, even if it was for a nonviolent offense. And we're supporting them when they come out.
So what's the solution, Judge? Is there any?
I don't know why we can't go back to the way things were. I know it doesn't sound progress, but why shouldn't judges have that difficult burden of deciding what the sentence ought to be, not based on point values or the district attorney mandating it or the plea. The plea agreement coming from 2 people from both sides should be consistent with what the judge is willing to accept. The judge accepts what they plea because it's easy. Everybody agrees with that, and we do it 90% of the time.
Yes.
And that's just, who's doing the sentencing in Pennsylvania?
I do hope that there's something we could do in the voting place as a very active citizenry.
I think talk to your legislator
Talk to
and
our
ask
legislature.
them how do they feel about mandatory minimums, if they think it's a mistake. If they're honest, I hate to say this, but I have not had one tell me it's not a mistake. Not one. I have had the longest serving Republican state senator, Senator Greenleaf from Montgomery County, admit that to us. He's admitted it to the Bar Association a couple of times at conferences where we talked about sentencing.
Well, how did that go over?
He admitted it, and he said, I'm going to do something about it.
And did he?
But, well, he's done a lot of things, but what I'm saying is we have never eliminated mandatory minimum sentences, and we certainly haven't even gotten close to eliminating the Sentencing Commission, which in my opinion, my analysis, from my experience and my education, is the problem here.
Okay.
And one more person, in Berks County, we're privileged to have Representative Calderone, who is the longest serving representative in the state of Pennsylvania. Longest serving. He's been in almost 40 years, almost as many years as I've been in the criminal justice system. And he's the first one to stand up and tell you how bad they are, and we got to do something about it. And we're just recently talking about the budget. His statement is we got to do everything we can to reduce the number of people in prison, reduce the number of prisons. That's where he is now. And I just suggest that, for me, getting rid of mandatories and letting judges, forcing judges to do the sentencing, getting rid of the Sentencing Commission, forcing judges to do the sentencing, giving them that responsibility, that duty, is really where we can go back to the way things were.
It's a complex question, but it's a simple answer. It's either a yes or a no, or maybe it's a maybe. Have we lost the war on drugs?
Well, there's no question we've lost it. Absolutely no question. Our drug problem today is as bad as it was 40 years ago. And in 40 years, we've incarcerated 1 million people and spent billions of dollars to fight it, and have so many law enforcement people out there trying to enforce the law. I mean, you hear about these really big busts and you think, well, that's great, we're doing something about it. You hear about it over and over and over and over again, but the drug problem is the same. And it's the same in the suburbs as it is in our cities. And yet we seem to be attacking the cities. That's where the enforcement is. It's where all the enforcement really is. That's where they have stop and frisk policies, which I know is another area, but New York State, or New York City and Philadelphia, for instance, a lot of cities all over the country, the police have been trained to stop people who they don't even suspect of something, but they fit a profile, stop them and ask them for identification, and the people don't know, and then ask them, may I search you? That's a classic. There's no reason to search them, but who's going to say no to a police officer? People don't know that they can say no to a police officer. I don't know what they think will happen next or what will happen next if they say no, but many people will say yes, even when they have a pack of marijuana in their pocket. And they don't find guns. In New York City, the statistics are they arrest they stop and frisk 85% Hispanic and black people in the city of Reading. And they only get drugs, maybe I guess 20% of the time, but they only get weapons like 6% of the time. So they're not doing that outside my church or my mother's church in Fleetwood.
Right.
They're not stopping and searching people.
I see.
It's an entirely different thing in the city, and as a result of that, and the biggest problem really is if I get arrested for drugs and I go to you as my lawyer, you will tell me one thing. You will tell me the best thing I can do is go rat on somebody. Go rat on somebody so I can turn state's evidence so that this mandatory that's hanging over my head can be dropped. Yeah, they can actually, the prosecutor can drop it. Oh yeah, they come to me at, can I see your honor at sidebar? And they come to me at sidebar and say, this person has really cooperated with the police in investigations. He's done this for us. He's done that for us. We want to drop the sentence down. That's the reason we want the sentence to be less. So you get rewarded for that. Well, that's fine, I think. I don't know.
So there's no more honor amongst thieves.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, we need to have people ratting on people for like political corruption or business corruption or violent crimes, but
things that matter, but not just being a snitch.
Because drugs is everywhere, and all we're doing is just creating more opportunity for violence in our cities, and by golly, we certainly have seen that. I'm fired up because I have had to do unfair sentences. Unfair, and I could give you, if we had more time, I could give you lots of examples. There's examples in the book, and I mean, but absolutely wrong sentences in my opinion. Now I'm only the judge, and I'm only the one who does the sentencing. But why should judges? Why should you have anybody saying afterwards, I was forced into doing this and it was unjust, it was not the right thing to do? Wow. And I'll just say one more thing. I don't know how much time we have, but the legislators have said mandatories are a mistake, which is incredible. The judges have all said that. The scholars, the people who write in this area, law school professors, mistake. People who work in the system, mistake. I have the warden of Berks County Prison quoted on the back of my book. He agrees that this is a mistake. Everybody says it's a mistake, but nobody does anything about it. So, this being America, and this being the 4th of July, I wrote the book for the general public. I
think that you're right, it is a mistake, and you'll learn all about it in this marvelous book. Judge Sprecher, I just appreciate all the time and effort that had to go into compiling all of this information and all of the cases that you stated. And here you are, a judge, a fair judge, an honorable judge, an honest judge, and that's the way we should keep our legislature and our judiciary system.
Well, thank you very much.
That's what I'd like to take away on this beautiful 4th of July upcoming holiday. It is certainly what our forefathers had in mind, and not the eroding of our freedom. So may I shake your hand, sir?
Yes.
And congratulate you on this marvelous book.
And we have the greatest country in the world, the greatest system in the world. I'm not saying that the system is terrible, that we should have anarchy or revolution. I'm saying these are some areas that me, on my experience and education, think, and my analysis, wrong or right, and it's gotten me in a lot of trouble already, my analysis, but I analyze things, and as far as I'm concerned, if we can make these little changes, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying throw the system out, throw the country out or something like that. I'm proud to be an American.
Right. And we understand that, Judge. I truly do understand what it is that you're opting for, that we return to justice. And you just shout it out loud, because I, for one, don't mind throwing out the bad for the good. Thank you again. Thank you for traveling from Berks County.
My pleasure.
And we wish you a very successful term. Thank you for being such a great and sincere and honest judge. And thank you for your input. And thank you for this book.
You're welcome.
Please, in bookstores. You have been watching Northeast Current, and we are with our guest, the Honorable Judge Jeffrey Kent Sprecher, and his new book, We hope that you'll go online and try to find it because it is worth reading.